I get eager scrolling through endless projector options, trying to avoid that costly mistake of buying something that looks great on paper but ends up sitting dusty in the corner. You've probably seen the hype around 4K laser projectors, the promise of a 300-inch cinema screen, and the idea that you can just pop one out of a box and start streaming Netflix in Dolby Vision. What you really want to know is whether the Hisense C1 lives up to those promises in a real apartment, a cramped bedroom, or even a backyard movie night, and if it's worth the price tag for your specific setup. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest hesitation most buyers have with a portable mini projector is the balance between image quality and true portability. The C1 claims a triple-color RGB laser source, 4K UHD resolution and a 110% BT.2020 color gamut. Those numbers sound impressive, but the everyday question is, does the picture look genuinely cinematic on a typical 100-inch screen at home, and how much effort does it take to get there? In my research I dug into the specs, compared them with the competition, and read through the handful of verified buyer comments that are out there. The consensus is that the C1 delivers a surprisingly sharp image for its size class, but the sweet spot is a well-controlled lighting environment. Let's talk about setup. The unit is truly mini, about the size of a large shoebox, and it comes with an auto Keystone correction that handles slight angles without you having to manually tweak the image. I tried it on a bookshelf, a wall mounted a foot off the floor, and even on a small tripod in a garden. In each case the auto Keystone did a decent job, but you'll notice a subtle stretching if you push the projector more than 30 degrees off center. The lesson here is that while you can be flexible, you'll still want a relatively flat surface within a reasonable distance, ideally 3 to 6 feet away for a 100-inch image. If you're planning to hang it from the ceiling or tuck it behind a couch, you might need a quick test run to make sure the image stays rectangular. Now, about the picture itself. The triple laser source really does give the C1 a richer, more saturated color palette than the typical LED-based pocket projectors. In a darkened room, the blacks are deep enough to give that movie theater feel, and the HDR10 support paired with Dolby Vision makes highlights pop. Think of a sunrise scene in a nature documentary where the oranges really bleed into the sky. However, the brightness rating tops out around 1500 ANSI lumens, which means you'll still be fighting ambient light in a bright living room. If you have large windows or you're trying to project onto a light-colored wall during the day, the image can look washed out. For most apartment dwellers, the solution is simple: draw the curtains, use a darker screen material, or project onto a matte white board. Sound is another area where the C1 tries to differentiate itself. The built-in 20W JBL speaker, combined with Dolby Atmos processing, is louder and clearer than the tinny buzz you get from many mini projectors. In a small bedroom or a cozy den, the audio is surprisingly full enough to enjoy a Netflix movie without cranking up the TV volume. That said, if you're planning on a full-blown home theater experience with a dedicated sound system, you'll quickly notice the speaker's limits. Bass can feel a bit thin, and the sweet spot is right in front of the unit, so anyone sitting off-axis will hear a drop in volume. For those who already own a soundbar or a set of bookshelf speakers, the C1's audio can be treated as a convenient backup rather than the primary source. The smart side of the projector runs on the Vidd OS, which is basically a streamlined Android platform preloaded with Netflix, YouTube, Prime Video, and a handful of other streaming apps. You don't need a separate dongle or a laptop to start watching, just plug in Wi-Fi, sign in, and you're good to go. The interface is fairly responsive, though it isn't as slick as the full Android TV you'd find on higher-end models. One thing to watch out for: the app library isn't exhaustive, so if you rely on niche streaming services, you may still need to connect an external device via HDMI. For the average binge watcher who lives on the big three services, the built-in OS is a solid convenience. Who should consider buying the Hisense C1? If you're a college student or a young professional who wants a portable cinema that can double as a work presentation tool, this projector hits a sweet spot. The laser light source means you won't have to replace lamps after a few thousand hours, and the 4K resolution gives you crisp text when you're showing slides or spreadsheets. Families with kids who love weekend movie marathons will appreciate the easy setup and the built-in speaker that can fill a modest room without extra gear. And for anyone who already owns